tonight, so I look forward to having that discussion at a later date.
I agree with that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may. Just one area that the reason why I'm not ready to present this now is I would like the principal and the assistant principal to meet with those parents of the preschoolers that are, set to come in next year, explain to them why the need for any kind of a change, what it's going to look like, because when we make things at this level, changes of programming, it really should come not just from us, but it should also come from the people that are going to get affected by it. So I want to open it up to the parents and to the staff at the Macomber to be able to sit, talk, and then have a proposal come out of that hopefully handles the needs and the concerns and the fears of the parents, because they're going to think, oh my God, they're going to change the whole preschool, and maybe the changes are not going to be that great to begin with. So, and perhaps in that discussion, we may come up with some ideas that we haven't even thought about.
In the form that went home that parents filled out already of what they prioritized their options, on it, it did say that at this point the budget isn't finalized for next year and there may be changes to this. So, they saw that right up front, so I think they have that in their minds to begin with.
Dr. Colley, do you have any superintendent coffees coming up between now and town floor? Or do you have any superintendent coffees coming up soon?
I haven't set one up. I could set one up down there.
Yeah, we'll schedule
that might be one thing that you may want to have
as
as a topic to get the parents in there are going to be affected by the, and just.
I always like coffee down there. They
We know how to do it.
Yeah. They all do. I'm not saying that, but I love having coffee.
And I again appreciate the continuation of the discussion on what we're doing with the budget and the services provided at the Mac School. The timeliness of this budget discussion, though, is paramount. I believe we've also talked about where we are providing services that are not required. If I understood the comment about what we need to provide for pre-K is what? Because I understood that we have very little requirement of providing pre-K through the public schools.
The only requirement is that we provide services to students in need of special education, and that they should be done in an inclusive setting which opens the door to other students to participate if they want to. And that's why it's voluntary for any student that is not special needs, and that's why we're allowed to ask for tuition. Now, the amount of services we provide is only enough services to address the needs of the special needs students. That could vary. And again, it's whether a student needs 3 mornings a week, 5 full days, or anything in between. It's up to who are the kids that are joining up and what is the IEP team determining to be their needs. So it gives us a lot of flexibility as to how we set it up. So the way we're looking at it is we would have the ability to provide full-day programming to some of these kids and the ability to provide less. And at this point, all I was looking for is the blessing, if you will, that it's okay to move one position from one area of the budget to the other, because that wasn't reflected in the budget we presented to you. And I don't want to surprise anybody in particular. People have seen the budget the last couple of iterations. So before I send it to FinCom, I want to make sure the position gets moved. What the program looks like, that's the part that I want to collect some staff and parent input. So when we come back to you, we can present you with, it's a net sum 0. In other words, there's no change to the budget. We did move one position from one end of the budget to the other. And here's the program we're going to provide to the parents, and it does meet the special needs. So,
and my suggestion, as we continue the discussion, is to include in that inquiry and conversation with the parents that an option of privatized services for pre-K that meet the needs of where we're required to provide services is one other option. I think it's much deeper than a transfer of one position. And when we're looking at this budget, we have to start with that premise. The budget for kindergarten and pre-K at the Macomber has a lot more detail than whether we're transferring a pre-K teacher from pre-K to K. I think we need to look at, the budget right now is very open, and we're continuing to look at it as we go forward through the process. And if you're having a discussion on the way that the Westport Community Schools provide services at the pre-K level, I don't think it's as simple as whether you'd have one more teacher or one less teacher. Because that's what you're at. You're just asking for some input on transferring a teacher from pre-K to K.
I'm asking because that was the budget that was presented to you before, and if we want to keep the budget the same as it is now, moving the one position from one level to another will require us to make a change in that. However, I don't see, I guess I'm not understanding what your request is in terms of what is it you want us to look at the pre-K level. We think even by moving the position from one level to the other, we still have enough staff to provide for the needs of the students that would be in there. It's just, what will it look like? I don't think, as long as it stays within the budget that we have set, I don't think it's going to be, I don't see what else you're asking us to do other than to bring back to you what it would look like.
Part of my premise is that the motion that was made on the budget and what was asked before we had the vote is, what did you need? Were we approving an entire budget in terms of the sub-budgets or a number? And we approved a number. And to achieve that number, I think we still have some drastic changes to make, and they may or may not include delivery of services at the Macomber School. So that's what I'm saying. We have not made any vote on whether we're going to have full-day kindergarten, whether we're going to have a pre-K service that we provide, or whether we're going to bring an outside contractor in. These are things we have to look at. We have some major budget discussions ahead of us. And I fully appreciate that a motion is not in order tonight, but on all these issues, the input, I think, is important to get from the community, but also to be well-versed on all options, and I see those as options.
Mr. Larry?
Just to clarify something, Dr. Cully, you said you were looking for our approval of just looking at the option of moving a teacher from pre-K to K. Okay. Because I think that's where a little bit of confusion might be. You're not looking for us to say yes to it, just for the option of it. Okay.
Because again, I didn't want it to go out there in the community and you guys not heard it first, and then once you've heard it, then when we go out to the community, because now they're going to have questions, what's that going to look like, we can start to answer. And I wanted to make sure we did it in the proper form and order.
So that'll be one of the items, along with what Mr. Sullivan, I guess, was getting at, whether we provide services even at all, have K or anything like, whatever these.
And that's exactly what, a good recap of my comment.
Let me try to throw one out there just so I'm clear. I think the way I understand where you're coming from is that 2 weeks ago we did give preliminary approval of a number that I think we all realize is way too low to do what we need to do. And things like this, like a bubble class coming up to the K and potentially more pre-K, these are kinds of things that are going to, or potentially could appear in the next couple of months. And that's chipping away at a budget number that's already too low.
Well, I think those other issues that are more expensive than just whether we have one teacher less in pre-K and one more teacher at K, I think we should save that for E,
right,
if you want to go beyond that, because I have some comments on that part.
Because I think, if I'm reading you right,